France has arrested Russia's top tech bro, but just why is his platform such a threat to France while being so beneficial to Russia? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this weird story. Okay, so this, if you haven't seen it, the CEO of Telegram, a messaging app, was arrested in France. Now, the French are saying that it is because Telegram has not cooperated sufficiently with law enforcement and has not moderated their platform to prevent illegal activity like drug trafficking, promotion of terrorism, and fraud. Now, is this true? I'm not sure, but overall, it is a kind of part of the ongoing conflict with a lot of tech platforms where there are questions of the fact that how is this moderated, how is it governed, and how responsible are the owners of the platform for what happens on there? And it's a valid question, right? Because again, imagine if the phone company could face lawsuits if a mob boss was to call over the phone and say, I want you to whack Smitty at midnight, right? That would be illegal, but it doesn't mean that we need to arrest the CEO of AT&T, right? But this is kind of doing that is one argument. The other argument is, of course, that they are functioning more like a classified ad. And if, someone was to dial a classified ad, right, like seeking child slave, and the classified ad was to be like, yeah, run it, buddy. They are responsible, right? So the question is Telegram the classifieds or is it the telephone? And obviously, the problem is, of course, that Durov is a dual citizen of Russia and the UAE. He's a 39-year-old Russian-born billionaire. Oh, sorry, it says dual citizen of France and the UAE, excuse me. But he was born in Russia, and he's considered Russia's Mark Zuckerberg because he founded VK. You might remember VK is identical to Facebook in every way. In fact, let's see if we can find it. And also interesting is that VK, you can see it. Here it is here. You can note this interface. This is literally identical to the Facebook interface. All he's done is cloned Facebook. But this is why it's sort of, there's something else to this story here, right? Because, for example, 2013, Pavel fled Russia, actually, after he refused to hand over the data on Ukrainian users of VK to Russian authorities. He created Telegram in order to allow, and it was popular among cryptocurrency fanatics, right? And it's a place that's seen as an unfiltered source for news from places like Ukraine and Gaza. In fact, in January 2021, Pavel's claimed it had about 500 million monthly active users. India was actually its largest market, with 22% share of total installs coming from India. They gained 70 million users as a result of a Facebook outage as well. Telegram's usage, of course, in March jumped over 63%. This is around the time of the invasion. The reason is because there was a real emphasis, right? That Telegram was a platform that could be secure, that it was difficult to monitor. That's one of the things that was emphatic about Telegram, is that it was one of the earliest to offer end-to-end encryption for voice and video calls and optional private chats, which Telegram called secret chats. So overall, this was a privacy-first project from a tech billionaire as a direct response, it seems, to the efforts by the Russian government to crack down on VK, right? You could see it launched in about 2013, shortly after the Russian government came after him for not disclosing Ukrainian users in VK. But it's also critical. It's a critical piece of infrastructure for the Russian military. And we're going to talk about why in a second. But of course, if you guys want your own source of uncensored combat footage, don't get me wrong, I've had my own problems with these tech companies. Patreon, YouTube, they've actually banned me from showing even the most mundane combat footage, even stuff that's not graphic, that complies with the official terms of service of YouTube. I still get demonetized. So if you want to support the channel and enable me to continue to do this every single day and get access to uncensored combat footage, you want to become a member. In the members only section, of course, of combatvetnews.com, the link is in the description. You get access to twice a week uncensored combat footage for members only. We do a deep dive analysis of the units and where it's taking place and evolving tactics. It was really, we were looking at videos at Kursk within hours of the initial invasion. The lieutenant tier and colonel tier get you other benefits, including a weekly Q&A, shout outs at the end of videos, and special recognition. So check it out, combatvetnews.com. Support the channel. Keep me doing this every day. And frankly, stick it to the companies that want to silence me or get me on message. The only people I'm beholden to is you guys. So let's talk about what exactly is the value of Telegram in this war and why am I so worked up about it? Well, there's a couple of reasons, but there's two big ones. The first is, of course, that Russian mill bloggers are worried because Telegram is a key platform for them. In fact, it is the primary platform where the Russian public receives what they feel is true or unfiltered information about the world around them, right? Given the intense censorship by the Russian federal censor, Roskomnadzor, they are really, Telegram is one of the few places where mill bloggers and other sort of news analysts can communicate what they feel is accurate, unfiltered, uncensored news to the Russian public. Now, it's still prone to all the same issues as any other platform, but it is still, by Russian standards, one of the freest media outlets and sources of information. So much so, you might recall that Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group when he was alive, used Telegram emphatically. Most Russian mill bloggers are on Telegram. And even the official Russian and Ukrainian units will run their own Telegram pages, and they're a key source of information on those units' activities. But some mill bloggers are advertising newly created or existing pages within Kremlin-controlled social media, VK, right? VK, sort of like Facebook, is much more transparent. It collects much more user data. It doesn't feature the same level of encryption. And this means that the Kremlin can track users to a much higher level of sophistication than they can with Telegram. But this is, of course, this may be part of the Kremlin's campaign to compel Durov and Telegram into revealing themselves to Russian censors and strengthen their control over these Russian mill bloggers. Because as we know, the mill bloggers, while they are ultra-nationalist by and large, they're sort of like the American veteran community that skews very, very nationalist. The Russian mill bloggers are a little bit crazier, but they're not always on message. Again, sort of like the American veteran community, that while they generally skew politically conservative, they will absolutely tell you if they think the any American political party is being absolutely brain dead and stupid. And that's a huge problem for someone like Putin, who relies deeply on his ultranationalist credentials. And once you have these veterans in these mill bloggers coming out and really dunking on the Russian military or the Kremlin's leadership in the prosecution of the war, it's a really bad look for Putin. So they've tried to get Durov and Telegram under wraps, so to speak. And it's not clear if this arrest in France is related to this or associated with this. Now, does it mean that Telegram's going away? Probably not, right? But it means something else. Not just for the mill bloggers, but for the actual Russian military, right? Mill bloggers have said that Telegram is actually the main alternative to official communication for Russian military personnel in Ukraine, and have argued that it's actually become vital for Russian military command in the absence of an official communication system. And you see why, right? Because Telegram is so encrypted, it means that also the Ukrainians would have a hard time reading those communications if they could intercept them. So it's an easy method for soldiers to quickly communicate with each other via either calls or via text messages. And we've seen this. We've seen a lot of civilian tech get used by the Ukrainian and Russian military, right? For example, Discord is a very, very popular app in Ukrainian headquarters, right? Because it allows the sharing of files, videos, it allows other people to tune into live streams, but it's sort of contained and private, right? So it can be an effective alternative to a military contract system that maybe is more secure. But again, you have to think for low level like company and battalion operations, especially ones that are fast breaking. It's unlikely that the Russians are going to be able to hack into it, interpret the results, get the results to the battlefield in time to make any kind of difference on a tactical level. But of course, Telegram, despite being so valuable, the Russian military has its own technically official communication system, but it's apparently, like every other piece of Russian tech, over-centralized to the point of inhibiting Russian indirect fire operations. And I've talked about this before. The military, because generals make the decisions, generals, if it looks good to a generals say it must be good, right? And so if you're a general and you say, look at this piece of gee whiz tech, your tech guys will come in and they'll set it up and it'll look beautiful and it'll give you all these real-time updates and it'll give you all this great data. The problem is for the end user, war isn't fought by the generals, it's fought by the end users. It's fought by an artillery crew, it's fought by a drone operator, it's fought by an assault squad. And if that assault squad has to fill out 60 stinking forms on a little shitty iPad to just be like, hey, I need indirect fire on my position, but indirect fire, no, should we send this to the general? Uncheck. Check if you want me to add a Kazovac. No, just send it to, this is how military tech feels to use. It has a bunch of gee whiz features when all you want, you just say, man, if I could just get out my phone and say, hey, Sergey, I need a fire mission on my position. It's whatever, vodka 2-3, whatever their stupid call sign would be. Just put rounds into the Ukrainian trench. And that's all you need to get an indirect fire operation. People act like you need to have the line 1, enemy in bunker position, machine gun, 2-man. It's nice to have that data, sure, but if someone's shooting at you, Sergey, I need you to shoot. I need a fire mission. I'm going to feed you the grids. It's a bunch of dudes in a bunker. That's it. That's all they need, right? Sorry, I'm worked up about this because this is a classic example of like, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy that the Russians can't run a communication operation. I'm fine with it. But this like indirect fire, it's just a classic example. It's something that should be done. It should be a 3-sentence message on Telegram, and you just know that the Russian communication system, it's some contractor-made bullshit that is utterly unuser-friendly, takes probably 20 minutes to send a signal through their pointlessly sophisticated encryption, because God forbid, the Ukrainians are definitely listening to them. So and now with the arrest of Telegram and this Telegram's head, and there's real fear among mill bloggers and the Russians themselves that they're going to lose an actually working, high-functioning military piece of equipment, right? There's fear that if it's blocked completely, it'll degrade operations in the near term. Russian military Telegram users might start migrating from Telegram out of fear of the system being compromised while Durov is under arrest, and Russian forces may start decoupling Telegram communications, even if Telegram's operations are not really impacted. And the fear, of course, is that the next best alternative is dog shit. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Please subscribe. It makes a difference to the channel. It really does. Huge thank you to all the new folks: James Ola, Martin Baum, Chris Rossi, Stuart Abel, Daniel Brown, Sergey Zinchenko, Chris Holmes, Chris Gorsuch. I could not do this without you guys. I appreciate you so much, as well as all the Lieutenant tier members. And I will see all you guys in the next one. Cheers.